you mentioned that the way folks were evolving, that we kind of started with, there was an initial paper that kind of demonstrated that transformers could work in vision, and there have been subsequent papers. Is there a clear kind of next thing that has to happen in order for it to be the breakout success that it was in NLP, or is it more just lots of problems and the community kind of rallying around those problems and making progress paper by paper?
Yeah. So I'm gonna come out and say it. I think we need to rethink everything we're doing. Uh, um, yes, I think that it will entail us breaking away from that boring regime we're at with ImageNet. We need to move beyond that. We need to stop worrying less. I'm kind of sick of seeing papers that are just table after table after table with 1 percentage point of performance. Sorry, I don't want to be like bitter or mean, but like, who cares to some degree, right? I mean, benchmarks are not there for us to beat them to death and burn TPU hours and melt the ice in the Antarctic in order to get 1% on these data sets. Benchmarks are there for us to test ideas quickly, see if they work, and then move beyond that.
Hmm.
So I think we'll need to break out of that sort of desire that we have to produce more papers with more tables
Yeah.
and more numbers that are not substantial. And we need to rethink a lot. We need to be more creative in what we're solving and how we're solving it, how we're using these data sets. You know, Even simple data sets with single labels can be used in very creative ways. Um,
Hmm.
so, and of course, we need to also move beyond that. I think video is a fantastic data source that we need to start exploring better. Again, video right now in computer vision is predominantly used for classification. Isn't that bizarre? Like video. So you're taking this video that has so much information that there's so many things going on, and you say running. It's so sad. There's more things to it, so, and we need to start exploring. It's right there, it's right in the pixel. So, and we know, maybe we have ideas how to do it. It might take a little longer to get there and not meet the next CVPR deadline, but I do think that we need to rethink, reevaluate, and maybe get more creative in how we're working with these data sets. Did
Yeah,
that
not
cover
to
your question?
no, you did in a sense, I guess, and not to further belabor the ImageNet point, but I think it's interesting that this data set that has in so many ways kind of embodied the success and the moment that we're experiencing, right? The ImageNet
Right,
moment in
right.
machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, all of that. It's almost like it's a victim of its own success in a very strange way.
Yeah, I think that ImageNet is so. I think that it's always important to um, sort of uh, step away from our everyday and kind of see where we're at. So ImageNet was a data set, and this is no attack to the data set. The data set is fantastic. It's an attack to us, right, as scientists. So ImageNet came out 10 years ago at a time when we actually didn't have neither good tools nor good data sets. And it also came out at the time when we had this explosion of in the industry, like the Google and the Facebooks, that were seeing a huge amount of user data being uploaded, and they had immediate needs to address specific problems. Like they wanted to see, to make sure that they don't have, the images don't contain violence, pornography, child pornography, all these things that you need to understand in contents immediately. And of course, also business purposes down the line, how to cater to users better by understanding their content and what, they post and stuff like that. So ImageNet served a fantastic purpose at the time because we actually needed to build our content understanding, research to get to that point. And ImageNet was a fantastic fit. And it found itself, even in like the progress there, found itself a spot in industry, and it's being used. And now industry has built its own internal data sets to make that happen, because based on the nature of their user data. So but in research we're still kind of stuck with sort of that paradigm. But now we're 10 years later. Now the needs for what we need to get to, we're moving past content understanding. Like my company just announced they want to build Metaverse is this extremely complicated task, extremely like hard milestone to get to. um, Definitely you're not going to accomplish it by classification, let me tell you. So these are new needs, right? And it sets a different environment in what we need to be working in and working on. And I'm not saying that we should be working on making metaverse happen, but it sort of dictates what are the interesting problems. AR VR, that's another great topic that we hadn't really been discussing 10 years ago, but now we are there because we live in a completely different time.
Is it clear to you what types of problems and approaches we need in computer vision and machine learning broadly to enable a metaverse like vision?
I think many things. I think, and what is exciting about metaverse or the metaverse, types of projects, is that it's definitely going to be a combination of software and hardware. So, which is sort of a new that builds a new potential collaboration in these completely new different domains of science. Uh, I don't. I mean, I feel that we could be discussing this for hours and hours, but it's definitely will involve us moving into the 3D space, us being able to understand in 3D space, us being able to generate content in 3D. So it will. I think we're going to be moving towards, definitely towards 3D, definitely towards dynamic, sort of capturing just objects and scenes while they're moving and changing in time. And I think that it will also involve a different modalities. So we need, it's not only going to be a matter of RGB streams. It will Sound will come into play. I think that depth, maybe from depth sensors, will come into play. This is a different modality. So I think it's going to be sort of a combination of having to put in together a lot of work from different domains.
That last point you raised is something that I also wanted to bring up, and that is, and maybe Clip is an example of this, but one thing that I've heard a lot about this year is interest in multimodal types of problems, whether it's text and images, text and video, audio and images. Are you seeing that as well? And are there any interesting things that are on your radar there?
Yeah, and I want to say, I mean, this is completely true, and it makes sense, right? I mean, these are all modalities that come from or are derived from the same sort of underlying world. The text and the audio,
Hmm.
everything describes that world that we are so desperate to understand. And here, I would say that the reason why we've seen like a lot of work coming out is, again, thanks to transformers. I think this is another benefit of transformers, not just the gain in performance that we can debate, or it might not be as substantial, but it's definitely the fact that it has unified how we are building models to consume these different modalities. Before, audio had its completely different line of work, completely different
Hmm.
architectures, and video also had its completely different architectures, images a completely different architecture, text completely different. And it was even hard to read papers from, like, I was having a hard time actually reading papers from NLP because I couldn't really understand the underlying, structures of the network and all that stuff. And now I have no problem reading papers from NLP or from
Hmm.
any sort of speech and audio processing papers. So transformers are great because they have just unified all this, and as a result, it's really easy to also do joint research now with these modalities.
Hmm.
It's much easier to actually build without having the necessary skill set or expertise or anything to do research in that domain. These two advances, I think, will lead to a lot more work there, hopefully. And I think it makes sense. And I think this is a direction that we should definitely keep pursuing.